guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know, my name's Alicia and I'm a sous chef with a sweet tooth. And today we are doing a butter rum cake recipe. It's a cake that is requested by my family quite often, and I figured why not make it keto so I can join in. So here's how we did it. As you can see, we are doing this a little bit differently today. My boyfriend is working and it is unseasonably warm here in Buffalo, New York when it was just snowing 3 weeks ago. So I am in regular lightweight clothes. But I wanted to get this done before it got too hot because it does require an oven. So I'm gonna go and preheat that real quick. Wanted to wait till the last minute so it doesn't get even more hot in here. We got that set at 325. And then we got butter in a mixer with a whip attachment. We're adding in 2/3 of a cup of granular Keto monkfruit sweetener. And we are gonna whip that until it's light and fluffy. So this recipe, if you take it past 4 minutes on whipping, which I'm gonna actually time this, it gets even fluffier. The cake itself gets fluffier, but it does fall a little bit on top. The first time I did it, I only whipped it a little bit and it was crispy and dense on top and it was a denser cake. So I think I'm gonna cut it right in the middle and do 4 minutes. You wanna scrape it down a couple times in the 4 minutes. I have a 1/4 cup of coconut oil, and pretty much I just decided to use it because it was already melted because it's so hot in here. It's liquid, but the first time I used avocado oil and it turns out just fine. So whatever you want to use. This has been going for about 4 minutes. I'm gonna pour in my oil and vanilla extract. And then I also added liquid stevia because the reason this recipe is so good, the original has a packet of pudding mix in it. So it makes it extra sweet and extra delicious, but I bought sugar-free Jello pudding mix and I didn't like the ingredients in it. It had maltodextrin in it. So I just decided to try and figure it out without it and add in extra sugar and extra like leavening agent because there's cornstarch in pudding. So I have arrowroot starch going in here. We're just gonna whip this up a little bit too, get it a little bit fluffy and incorporated. It's so hot in here, everything's just gonna be melted, I think. So, and then what makes this the butter rum cake is white rum. You do a 1/4 cup of white rum. And then after that, you're gonna be adding 2 room temperature eggs. And you put one in, you whip it up, put in another, whip it up. And it's still very frothy and thick. I'm gonna add in 1 egg at a time. Oh, oven's ready, 325. As you can see, it's still really thick and fluffy looking. What you want. And then you're gonna add in your dry ingredients by hand after this is all incorporated. So as you can see, it's very little amounts of dry ingredients, which makes this really low carb. And because it's a butter cake, it's very high in fat. So it's pretty much like a cake fat bomb because you're also putting a butter glaze on top of it. So this only has 30 grams of coconut flour, 29 grams of unflavored whey protein. I use isopure because I figured out it does matter what kind of protein powder you have. I messed up an entire bread loaf recipe with protein powder. By Keto Connect's recommendations, I'm using the isopure. I also got my arrowroot and then xanthan gum and some leaveners. All the recipes and amounts are in the description below. This is a really thick batter, even the normal batter for the normal rum cake. I will show you a picture. It is like a very thick batter, just like most keto cake recipes are already a thick batter. You want to just keep mixing it until you don't see any powder left. And then this original recipe was in a bundt pan, so it makes a very big cake, enough for like a whole family. So I cut this down, which still makes a pretty decent sized loaf of cake. And I cut it into 12 pieces. It's 1 carb per slice. So I have this pan here. It's a silicone like bread pan, but it works really good for this. Even though this probably doesn't need it, just in case I spray it with some avocado oil. So after that, you pour it into your cake pan. I'm sure you can use any kind of loaf pan for this. Probably be your best bet. Spread it out a little bit. Now this does take a while to bake. It's about 50 minutes. And whenever I do baking, you always know, I like to put it in for half the time in the oven, spin it, and do another half the time. So I'll do 25, turn it, 25, and then I'll check it with a toothpick to make sure this is all set. So we'll be back in 50 minutes to show you how this comes out. Okay, so while that's baking, I am going to show you the hardest part about this cake. The actual cake part was easy to do. This part was a little bit more difficult and very frustrating. I tried so many different ways to make this glaze. The traditional glaze is literally just butter, water, sugar, and rum. But when you boil any kind of natural sweetener, it crystallizes again afterwards. So I made an awesome golden monkfruit rum butter syrup. I put it on my cake and it all just hardened and crystallized on top. So I had to figure out a way for that not to happen. So I looked up online. I'll link this blog post below because it was her idea and I just recreated that and then made a butter rum sauce to put with this that doesn't crystallize when you add it together after boiling everything. So first we're boiling a 1/4 cup of granular locanto sweetener with a 1/2 cup of water, and you're bringing that up to a boil until it's completely dissolved. So basically you're just making a simple syrup here. And to make a keto simple syrup, you have to add xanthan gum. Most people now that are doing keto know that this is kind of a staple in most baked goods, but her recipe was double this, and she used less than 1/8 of a teaspoon of xanthan gum. So literally I just take my 1/4 teaspoon, I like put like half in there and knock some out so that I only have a tiny bit in there. And then once all this sugar is dissolved in here and it's boiling, you can add in this very slowly and whisk and whisk and whisk until it's all dissolved. I'm actually thinking I'll probably just make a big batch of this at some point and just have it. She uses it to sweeten her iced coffee. It's a really good idea. Okay, so we're at a boil. I'm going to stir continuously and just tap this in. It's really hard to get it to dissolve.
Keep stir, stir, stir. Keep stir, stir, stir.
It looks like it's pretty much all dissolved. You can see like almost like cloudy floaties in there, which is just like the starch binding in there. I'm going to turn this off and just transfer it to a bowl to cool down. Okay, so now for the butter rum part. So I have just 1 ounce of rum and 2 ounces of butter in here. I'm pretty much going to do the exact same thing I did with the simple syrup. I'm going to add a little bit of xanthan gum to this to stabilize it, and then add in a little bit of the simple syrup once they're kind of room temperature. If somebody knows a better way to do this, feel free to let me know in the comments below, because I tried so many different variations and every time it crystallized or it just thickened, the butter just solidified. So it's almost to a boil again. So I'm gonna do the exact same amount of xanthan gum pretty much for this bit, or even maybe a little less because it's even less liquid. I wanna boil some of the rum off. So it looks like that. It's like I have a thick butter syrup. I'm gonna put that in another bowl to cool, and then we're gonna add some of the simple syrup to this to sweeten it. And hopefully this won't crystallize, because things have happened differently every time I do this. But it looks good. Okay, we'll be back to pop out the cake and give it a little glaze. Okay, so this isn't gonna cool enough really, because it is 86 degrees in my house right now. So I got my cake, I popped it out. It's very soft. It's not a real thick, dense cake. I'm gonna put that syrup that we made on it now. So I got a serving tray to put it on. I usually take like a long skewer, or you can just take a toothpick also, and you poke a bunch of holes in it for the syrup to go down into. This is really all up to you, preference-wise, on your sweetness level and everything. The cake is pretty sweet by itself too, but this gives moisture, like I said. A little bit of extra sweetness. So I'm going to put just a little bit of the syrup on top, around the edges. And then I'm going to put some of the butter on there. Which that's also a little bit sweet. It's a little less sweet because you got the rum and the butter in there. But then you can save some of this to put over your slices. I like to put it like down around the sides, make it look pretty. There you go. Butter rum cake. It looks nice with the ridges on top. Well, I like that pan. I'm probably gonna do an Amazon affiliate page soon, and I did buy this silicone pan on Amazon. So that is my upgraded keto butter rum cake. You see sugar and the butter like soaks in. Again, you probably have to keep this in the refrigerator, but it's definitely better room temp. You see how like soft it is? I think this one turned out even better than the last one I did, which I whipped it for 8 minutes and it was a little bit too spongy, but this one's like just right. Definitely moist and delicious. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and please like this video, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and I will hopefully see you again soon. Bye.